So, this evening I would like to welcome Grethe Evjen, who is from the, if I get this right, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture in Norway, but also as part of that job is the project manager, again, hopefully I'm getting this right, of the Svalbard Seed Bank. And that's sort of main part of the topic she's going to speak to us about tonight. And this fits with the sort of research areas we do, because a lot of the disasters that we think of and the most extreme scenarios that humanity could face, a lot of those will come down to how well we can be resilient within our food systems and maintain food security. So you might think of, say, a nuclear winter scenario or supervolcanic eruption. A lot of those will have impacts on humanity through their impacts on the food and agricultural systems. Anyway, Grethe, I think, will speak for probably about 45 minutes now, and we'll have some questions and discussion after that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me, and it's such a pleasure to be here. So if I can get this started. Okay. Yes. The Seed Vault is located in Svalbard, the Arctic archipelago in the middle of the Arctic Sea, just in the middle between the Norwegian mainland and the North Pole. Svalbard is, it's a group of islands that was discovered in the 16th century, and it has been Norwegian since 1920, according to the Svalbard Treaty that was signed after the First World War. And the Svalbard Treaty makes it a Norwegian territory, but it's still governed after some different rules. So this is actually outside of Schengen, so you can all type of people from all countries, or at least from the treaty countries, can do business and work from Svalbard. Oh, sorry. It's remote, wild and beautiful. It's 23,561 square miles. 60% of the Svalbard is covered by glaciers. And it's far away from most other places where the seeds are kept, which is an important thing for a seed vault. While the Svalbard is unfertile and barren, we still have a lot of wildlife, also in the sea mammals. And there are a special type of reindeer and some flora, which is no trees, no high plants, but a few low species can survive. Also, the animal that lives there have some specific feature to be able to survive during this long winter. And Longyearbyen is the Norwegian town. It's almost 2,400 inhabitants, and 2/3 in Longyearbyen they are Norwegian, but there are also very diverse nationalities staying there. It used to be a company town for coal mines. Coal mining, most of the mountains around there are already drilled with old coal mines, but now there is only one coal mine left and very little activity left. But there are science, there is a university center in Svalbard with a lot of students, nature science, and also a lot of tourists and tourist companies. The Seed Vault is very special because we also have an artwork by an artist, Diveke Sanne, on the top, and it is shining both during the midnight sun, when you have sun all the time. It's actually 117 days of midnight sun in Svalbard, and it also shines like a diamond during the polar night, which is also very long, where the sun is not coming up at all. And the Seed Vault, already before it was started to build, it was fascinating by a number of people. It's fascinating to many. And on the photo to the right is from 2006. It's the 5 prime ministers of the Nordic countries are marking the start of the Seed Vault by pouring some seeds in the glass container there. And the photo from the top is from the opening in 2008. So if I can, yeah. And it's the Norwegian Prime Minister at that time, Jens Stoltenberg. He's now the Secretary of NATO. And the EU President Barroso, together with the now late Wangari Maathai, who also is a winner of the Nobel Peace Prize for her work with biodiversity in Kenya. And at the bottom there is a greeting from Ban Ki-moon at his visit in 2009, the UN Secretary General. And it's located 130 meters above sea level, and most of this, you can only see the portal building, which is the entrance. Most of it is placed underground. And this is the model and the drawing of the Seed Vault, and you can see how it is organized inside the mountains. It's reached about 130 meters inside the mountain. And there are 3 chambers at the end there, and only the middle one is now almost filled up with seeds. Almost 1 million samples are stored there, and I'm sure by February there will be more than 1 million samples in the Seed Vault. And this is FAO believes that according to the researchers and the report of the nations, it's about 2.2 million seeds, that unique seeds that are kept in the gene banks around the world. So maybe, but we still have room for more. And the boxes are coming from all over the world. These are boxes from North Korea, from Thailand, from Taiwan, from absolutely all regions. And these boxes are not only, they are sealed in the depositor countries, and they are filled up with bags of seeds, one bag for each type of seeds. Yes. And there are, there are 78 seed deposits, 78 gene banks that deposit the seeds, total from 65 countries. Sorry, but this. Most of the gene banks that deposit seeds are national gene banks, but we also have some international gene banks, some large ones that have deposited most of the seeds. In addition, there are also a few regional gene banks saving seeds from more than one country, and also some private entities, institutions and NGOs. There are almost 6,000 plant species represented in the seed vault. And if you look at the table there, the top 5, first of all, it's wheat and rice, with almost 160,000 different types of each species. And still there are more variety to be found in the gene banks and also among the farmers. In addition, we have barley and sorghum and beans and maize. That I think it is more than 40,000 samples of each of them. And then we have a number, many more. Yes, many call the seed vault a doomsday vault. And others say that this is the most important room in the world. But why is that? And why do we actually need to save the seeds? We know that many of these plants get extinct. And of course it's important to take care of the biodiversity, we all know that. But this is, I think it's also important to think about why these seeds are important, how they could be used, and one, of course, biodiversity is important, but these seeds also have some other values of importance to them. First of all, the plants are the basis for most of our food. We save these seeds because we want to ensure food security for future generations. And when farmers, the plants grown by farmers, it's what constitute most of what we eat. even when we eat meat, the farmers feed the animal with the plants they grow. Even when we eat salmon or fish, farmed fish, most of the fish we eat are farmed fish, and it's fed. Most of it is fed by the plants that the farmers grow in their fields. So these plants are very essential for all human beings. And also, not only eat, but also drink. These are some varieties of rice, and we can all see that they are different. It's the same species, but still they are different. They have different traits. They grow differently, and they also may taste differently. And the farmers who grow them may know exactly for which purpose they use those seeds. But most seeds in the farmer's field have been replaced by more modern varieties, and these seeds may only be found in the gene banks that conserve the seeds that we don't use anymore. These are sunflower seeds. They may look alike, but they are also different. They have different types of traits. They may grow, they are adapted to different climate conditions, and also their oil content may be different. And we know that the plants that farmers use is originating from the nature. And not all over the nature, but it's coming from originated in some hotspots, some centers of origin. And what we can observe is that the region that are using most of the plants are not the same region often where the plants originated. Coffee originates from Africa, but still most of the coffee we buy may be grown in South America. And also rice and soybeans originates from China, and the main supplier is maybe South America. And this transport of seeds have been done for many years, and in which and it has been adapted and also continued to be developed in those places. Potatoes, we know that original potatoes are in the Andes. And in 2015, a group of indigenous farmers from Peru was placing 750 different potato seeds in the seed vault, which they have been taking care of. And we know what happened with the Irish famine in the middle of the 19th century, where 1 million people died because of the potato harvest was destroyed by some fungus, some potato blight, a number of years in a row. And this was because when they brought the potatoes to Europe, they didn't bring it all. Of course, they brought what they thought were the best ones. And when from the high Andes mountains to the Irish wet climate, of course, the potatoes have different environment, and it was very susceptible to this blight. And we have to go back to the Andes to find the potatoes that are, to look into that diversity, to find actually the traits that will be important for growing the potatoes in other places, and to find the resistance gene. There are wild species, wild relatives to most of our species all around, and most of it may be kept in situ conservation or in situ conditions, meaning it's growing in a protected area, like the chives on the top in northern countries, and it's barley from the Caucasus. This is where I live, in Oslo. It's a peninsula in Oslo, very close to the town center. And it's a very nice area with a countryside, green countryside. And a couple of years ago, I took part in an excursion after work. And the purpose of the excursion was to find free food in the forest. And during this couple of hours, I was very amazed because I tasted 40 different species that I didn't know were edible. I'm trained as a crop scientist, and I believe that, well, there are no use to look into the nature to find new crops, new plants. I mean, our ancestors during 10,000 years, I'm sure they have tried out everything, and we ended up with potatoes and wheat and tomatoes. But they tasted quite good. Some were a bit bitter, some salt, some like marzipan taste. It was very interesting. And I was starting to think that maybe we can skip the farming. Maybe we can just go into the nature and find our food there. But of course, if I think I would have needed to use most of my time to do that if I was going to feed my family from those leaves. And also if all the population in Oslo will live from that area, I think there will not be that much green stuff left. And of course the first people and also a few people still live like hunters and gatherers. They go out in the nature and live from what they can find. And in my first job as a professional, I worked as an agricultural teacher in a secondary school in Tanzania. And I was very lucky because it was an area, very nice area with a number of different groups of people with different origin, different languages, and different way of living. So it was very interesting experience. One of our friends were the Hadza people. And they lived in small huts of grass and moved around in a small, very beautiful area. They made their own bows and arrows, and they found the poison for the arrows from the nature. They followed the birds to find the honey, and they were very happy people. They were very content with their way of life. At one time they had to move. The authorities made a move to a small village just close to the area, but they just hated to live there. And so that was maybe how the people lived before, when the population density was not that high. And also another tribe at that time was the Datoga people. the Magnati or the Barabaik, they lived with their cattle and moved around and followed the cattle to where they could find the grass and live from the products of cattle. And only occasionally they grow. They settle down for a growing season to grow some maize, but they prefer to wander around. And I did a small developing study when I was there as well. And what the outcome of that study was actually that it wasn't true that these cattle actually was environmentally unfriendly. It didn't create that big erosion that we were thinking it did, because they didn't cut the trees and they used extensive areas in a very sustainable way. So actually they lived a very good life in balance with the nature, at least. Of course, they lacked a lot of stuff, but it was a very positive experience with as well. But of course, their area are getting smaller and smaller. In the northern countries, the first farming experience was the burning of the forest. They left the forest, they cut down the forest and then left it to dry for a while, and then they burned it. And when the ashes still were hot, they put their seeds of rye and they harvested enormous yield the next year. This was this rye was growing really high, and this example of this rye, this is actually some very, very old varieties of rye that they just found in a small hut that was used to dry the rye for very, very many years ago, and they managed to make them survive. And actually now there is a variety someone is growing, and the yield is very good. Of course, the first farmers, they had to find the seeds that actually they could grow and to feed the family with. And some of the researchers and some of the books I read about this tells that it was actually the plants, the agricultural crops that make them stay, make them build a home there, and make them settle. And this is the modern world. The modern varieties and modern technologies. And by these technologies, we have managed to feed the population. This is a graph showing how the increase in population is from how the increase in use of fertilizer is following the population growth. And it's of course nitrogen, very important, and also the phosphorus. Nitrogen is a very energy requiring process, but we can, of course, you can find the nitrogen all over, it's in the air. But in the phosphorus, the resources are just in a few places. The rock phosphorus, you can find also phosphorus in the manure and from other sources. But most of the fertilizers we use are from the rocks, and the resources are getting fewer. These are one also way to increase the production in agriculture is by irrigation. Sorry. This graph is also very interesting. It shows how the irrigation, too much irrigation, is destroying or reducing the water table in Syria from I think it was from from 1984 to 2010, the water level has been decreased by 40 meters due to intensive use of irrigation and pumps. And this is not sustainable. The report, the land report from the IPCC has just arrived, and also this one shows that land, we are using a lot of the available land for agriculture and forest. So our land resources are also limited. This is an example from Netherlands, how it looked like when there are most of the land is taken by agriculture. And I just put this figure together to show all the elements you need to produce food from plants. First of all, you need the land, you need water, you need fertilizer, you need technology. And when the fertilizer and land and water is getting more and more, I mean, we have almost used opportunities that these inputs are giving us. Maybe we need now to look into the opportunities that the seeds can deliver, and also the knowledge of the seeds, the knowledge, the scientific knowledge with regard to farming and agriculture. And of course it's the gene, the seeds, actually the importance of the seeds, they contain the genetic material, the double helix, and this is from the work of the monk Mendel, and he, in a systematic way, he started to find out how you can use the heredity of plants to manipulate the colors, the shape, and how the plants look like. So all these traits may give you different colors, different shapes of the seeds, different shapes of the leaves and the flowers. Genetic modified golden rice. This golden rice is not yet on the market. It is filled up with, it is rich in A vitamin, which is very important vitamin, which is for many countries. There are some discussion why it is not on the market. Some say it's the policy, some say that it's because it's not growing in the way that it's not producing as good as the other type of rice. Also the soybeans, we have a large part of the soybean production is genetically modified and resistant to Roundup resistant, the weed. So you don't need to weed it. The seeds can be stored in different ways. This is some is stored in the nature, which we call in situ. Some are stored by the farmers on farm, and these are methods that are well recognized, although these methods are not yet in systematic use in many countries. What is now emerging are community seed banks in many countries. the farmers that grow seeds, they are trained in how to collect some of the harvest to use as seeds for the next growing season. And a part of those seeds they put in this community seed bank. Okay. And then they can come back and get more. Sorry. And then we have more professional gene banks with a lot of material, with trained staff and scientists that work there. The biggest one are the international centers, the international agriculture centers that are placed in different places. They are specializing on some specific crops like wheat and rice, potatoes and beans. And these are the center of one of the centers, the International Center of Drylands, Agriculture in Drylands, ICARDA. And they had their gene bank in Syria, in Aleppo. And the photo on top there is the seeds they prepared to deposit in 2012. And in 2015, they had to move out of Syria and establish the gene bank in the neighboring country. But they didn't get access to the seeds. They had to leave the seeds behind, and then they could go to Norway, to the Svalbard, and ask for the seeds to be sent back. This is from the ICARDA Center in Lebanon. And this is how they grow their seeds they have retrieved from Svalbard. They multiply the seeds and grow them. And in 2017, the first seeds were replaced. 15,000 accessions were replaced. They did an enormous work with that. And the Seed Vault is receiving material from all over the world. And then I just wanted to show you that we have now done a big upgrade because the weather is the climate in Svalbard is getting wetter and warmer. As you can see, this is a very good drawing, I think, because it shows how the Svalbard actually is on the front in the Arctic zone, how the temperature is rising. It doesn't mean it's not very warm there, but it's now from -18 as an average temperature in the 1960s. It's now a bit higher than -2. And we started in May 2018 to make the entrance of the Seed Vault, the seed tunnel, the tunnel that goes into the seed chambers, to make it waterproof, because we experience water coming in not because of the permafrost melting, but because of the heavy rainfall and also melting of snow from the mountainside. But the permafrost were not established as it was supposed to in the outer layers of the and we have to do really major work. 17,000 cubic meters have been removed, and the layers, there have been a new tunnel, a waterproof tunnel, and all the layers around the tunnel has been also artificially frozen. More than 50 people have been taking part in the work. And that was just finalized. And I just want to show you how it now looks like when you go in. Maybe this is a... It is very fascinating to see all the seeds. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm lost here, so maybe we can just end it and I can respond to some questions if you like.